What is up, everybody? Today we will be talking about Alabama and what their expectations are in 2026. Many people believe that this is a make it or break it year for Kalen DeBoer. The offense needs to take some big improvements, especially up front and in the run game. And then the defense, they lost a ton, and we'll get to the returning production that they do keep, but they had a massive transfer exodus. They also brought a ton of guys in through the portal. And then there are massive offensive questions, particularly who's going to be the quarterback and can they run the football? Because a year ago, their ability to run the ball was the big weakness in this team. We'll get to it all today. So first things first, how many guys from 2025 are back for 2026? Overall, the returning production is 90th in the country, which is not very good. Looking at the offense and the defensive side of the ball, the defense returned significantly more at 32nd overall compared to the offense that's at 129th. And to be honest with you, specifically, when you look at the offense, right, you don't return your quarterback, you don't return your running back, or your starting running back, although that might not be the worst thing in the world. And then when you look at the wide receiver room, there's certainly going to be lots of change. Can Ryan Williams go back to what he once was? And then up front, tons of new faces. But once again, that might be for the better. When you look at the defense, my biggest worry is defensive line depth because their top, well, not their top, but they had 6 4-star quality transfer portal kids leave on the defensive line. That's a big question mark. I do like the returning production a ton in the secondary, and they still do have some good guys up front. And now let's look at Alabama's portal haul, the guys that they were able to bring in. I have a lot of questions because a lot of the guys that they brought in were 4- and 5-star kids out of high school that didn't pan out at their first school. And what we saw, and I call it the Indiana way, it's where you go get guys who are produced at the G6 ranks, at the FCS ranks, and then you bring them up and they're just plug and play players immediately and they are amazing. Alabama's still very much in this idea that we can develop people better than you can. So even if a guy doesn't work out at their original school, they'll work out here. And I'm very curious to see how that works, right? Noah Rogers is not one of those guys. He was good at NC State a year ago. Now he's at Alabama. He was carted off at practice, I believe a day, maybe 2 days ago. That's not amazing. Hopefully he's healthy for when the season starts. I believe he will be. It doesn't sound that bad, at least not yet, obviously. New news. And then they did get some nice pieces up front on the defensive line through the portal. But offensively, through the portal, they got an unbelievable amount of interior offensive linemen, which is huge because a year ago, they couldn't move bodies and they could not run the ball. And it was the biggest hole on this team. It was the reason why, no matter how good Ty Simpson played, it was hard for him to win games. And it also, I think, was part of the reason why Ryan Williams and those wide receivers necessarily were not as big of stars as you wanted them to be. So if they can get better up front, particularly on the interior of the offensive line, I really do think the offense can make some much needed improvements. And in my opinion, that's the strong suit of what they did in the portal because they didn't go out and get any more running backs, which tells me one thing. They believe that the running backs a year ago were fine. And I know they got some kids that we'll look at a little bit later on this video, some freshman guys who are good. But they really think it was the interior of the offensive line that struggled a year ago was the reason why they couldn't run the ball. So now let's look at the offense and let's look at the defense and what they'll most likely be as an entire unit. For the defense, I love the returning production in the secondary, right? I think the strength really of that defense and their ability to get to the quarterback, I still think will be strong. They do return 3 out of their 4 main contributors up front, which I think is huge. And then for the offense side of the ball, which is, in my opinion, the major question mark. I think the defense will be fine. Will it be a top 5 unit? I don't know. But for the offense, tons of question marks. Can they run the football? Right? And I know they got the 5-star coming in from Jackson, Alabama. He's good. But is he going to really have to be that lead back next year? Right? And maybe he will be. And maybe he will be. But if he's not, what's the run game going to look like? And then at the wide receiver position, okay, yeah, you lost Horton. I honestly wasn't that big of a deal in my opinion. How much better will Ryan Williams be? Will he look like the first 7-week Ryan Williams that was this unstoppable guy with the ball in his hands? Or will he struggle, right? And look how he did a year ago. Drop balls. And just not be the explosive game record that he has to be if Alabama wants to be successful. And then, obviously, the most important, what I think will be talked about the most in the offseason, is the quarterback situation. I think Russell is going to play. Just an initial thought. It sounded like in the spring game he got most of the starting snaps, which means, in my opinion, he's going to start. And my idea was you can't pay a 5-star, is the amount of money that I imagine they're paying him, and not have him play. So he's going to be the starting quarterback at Alabama, in my opinion. I think he's going to be damn good. I think he's going to be really, really, really good. I don't think he will be the reason why Alabama would not be a playoff contender or maybe more. But let's look at how I think that schedule is going to go. So overall, looking at the schedule, it is not as big of a gauntlet as it could be, right? You have Tennessee, you have Texas A&M, you have Georgia. I think those are probably 3 of your 4 hardest games. I'd throw LSU in there as well. I think they'll probably, in my opinion, go either 1-3 or 2-2 in those games. I think Tennessee's a win at this point, but on the road it's still really tough. Auburn's obviously always a tough one. You got South Carolina. They played you really hard a year ago. Florida State should be pretty bad. Same thing with Kentucky and East Carolina. So I definitely think there's a ton of wins on the schedule. We look at win total at 8.5. Right now, I got them going over. I think they will end up 9-3 early on, and we'll do at full-blown record predictions later on. I think in June is when we'll start those. Right now, I think Georgia, Texas A&M, and LSU are losses. Right? That might change. But overall, I do think they'll hit their over for the win total. Let me know what you guys think. Drop subscriptions if you guys are new here. Leave likes. And yeah, check out my other SEC teams that I've broke down already.